My name is Ginny, also known as 2/3 Lotus, everywhere on the internet. This clip is part of my series, The Poets of Twitch, where I analyze my viewers' writing live on stream. Nothing has been edited out, so you're seeing this exactly as streamed with all of the imperfections and tangents that come with being live. If you want to catch me live or want more information, check out the description. Otherwise, enjoy some excellent writing.
Is Dexterity by Mae7ari. The most important asset of you of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world whilst still having disparity is your dexterity. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat, drink, or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive, while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet you will never change. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise, and I demand clarity. Dexterity by Mae7ari. And one more time. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world whilst still having disparity, is your dexterity. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat, or drink, or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road for what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise, and I demand clarity. Dexterity by Mae7ari. I didn't cook with this one as hard as the previous one, but it's so chill. Yeah, I think your last poem was like really freaking good. And this is still like a strong poem. There's like some cool ideas happening. It's definitely still like ways above yet another love poem. Yeah, they're like, so the opening, it does have that good bim bim bim. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness. Like, I think the poem moves pretty well, and there are a few hang-ups in flow that happen. And I think I can try to figure out how to explain why. Let's start with sound. Sound is pretty important to flow. So is structure, so is meaning. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness, of the world while still having disparity, is your dexterity. So we have this like end of stanza rhyme, and then you also sort of have like the and C. All of this just depends on your pronunciation. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. So we have the same rhyme structure. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin. I didn't even realize it does skin twice. Not sure I'm a fan of this repetition, but it is a repetition. Burning it alive, while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. So this stanza is entirely different. It does an entirely different sonic thing. It sort of flows through very quickly, but warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. Like, if we sort of increase our speed and, like, the momentum in this part, it kind of covers the fact that, like, this repetition doesn't sound entirely amazing. Saying skin then skin. But if we lean into alive, die, cry, pain, change, then like that's pretty cool. And we do keep the structure of the end rhymes. So I guess it's not entirely different. Somehow I missed that pain rhymed with change. If I recall, I wrote this during the really good sound poem. That is referring to Marooned Again, which was by Exotopy. At least this was the one that we talked about sound for a long time. We might have talked about sound before that as well. Yeah, this one. This poem's insane. Exotopy gotta come back. Yeah, so I see that we're like doing some stuff with sound. That's for sure. It's very evident in this stanza. And there's also a repetition here of just or. I wonder if there is place for or and or again. I was thinking I might like it. We'd have to try it. We'll come back for alliteration. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself, continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat. You may as well lay down in defeat. Dexterity, clarity. So, we do have structure. We are doing quatrains. Or 4-line stanzas with A, B, C, C as end rhymes, which is good. Like, it's consistent. It works well. I have no issue with any structure or one being necessarily like better than another. Let's look at other sound things, though. Alliteration. The most important asset of you. Of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness. Of the world while still having. Disparity is your dexterity. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. There's maybe some like W stuff happening. Less than this. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. It's a very N stanza. What makes it so difficult to stop? But what makes it so difficult to stop? But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? This kind of goes throughout, actually. Continuing. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat. Defeat? But what makes it so difficult to stop? Also kind of tonally, like, more aggressive, meaning-wise. You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. Like tension here. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise and I demand clarity. Still some tease happening there. So, I don't know, nothing particularly, like, out of the ordinary. Some alliterative things, a rhyme scheme. Some harsher sounds as we get into this, like, high energy section. And then this one that kind of maybe flows. We talk about seeping and warmth. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive while nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. It's, good. Dicus Magnificus. What you see is not real. Those who know will not tell all is lost. Sold your souls to this brave new world. Brave New World? It's a book that I have not read. So, that's some, like, sound things. Maybe some of this will inform us later. Maybe it won't. Let's look at structure, maybe. So, some of the repetitions, some of the line breaks are kind of interesting. Like, I think you do some things really well, structurally. The most important asset of you, of any of thee. Like, I do think this is a great spot for a line break. Of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world, while still having disparity as your dexterity. And in some cases, when you're, like, rhyming on the end of lines, your hand is kind of forced as to what you can put there. But in these lines, it's definitely cool to have some interesting line breaks. The hands are the most beautiful shimmering jewel. Now, I would say, like, complete sentences can sometimes be a little bit of a struggle and actually cut your flow pretty hard. Because I see a line, I see a period, and now I have two things, the period and the line break, signaling me to, like, take a pause. This kind of structure encourages me to just keep moving. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world while still having disparity is your dexterity. This line kind of kills that momentum. The hands are the most beautiful shimmering jewel. You cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. It just kind of... I mean, this is like a useful thing. Sometimes we want our reader to really stop and think. But I don't find it so necessary to have our reader stop to process this line. Saying your hands are the most beautiful shimmering jewel is not necessarily immediately evoking like a lot of ideas. But when we start to talk about like what they do, that they are now cold in some way, like broken, not how they are supposed to be, this is more interesting than like the fact that they are a beautiful shimmering jewel, which they very well might be. Even if you said the hands are the most beautiful shimmering jewel with which you cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold. Something here, you cannot eat or drink or write. It just has a sort of cadence when you this or this or this or this. And I wonder if you cannot eat or drink or write or grab or gesture or hold. It really points to just you cannot do this and then some emphasis on this. But then you say grab, gesture, hold. And this makes me want to like rush through this part. But if I say you cannot eat or drink or write or grab or gesture or hold, you almost don't have a choice but to put some weight on each of these. Now it is like a lot. This or this or this or this or this. But if you're really trying to like hammer in an idea, that's where you want to use your weight and having like a lot of time spent on something. This pause does not demand to have time, and yet we write it as if there is supposed to be time here. This, listing all of the things that require their dexterity, their hands, the beautiful thing that they are in some way compromising, much, much stronger, I think. I wrote this poem very quickly. TBH, and I made mistakes in my writing that I can see now. That's okay. To be very clear. Like, that's actually, like, good. I think it's important, like, if we see that we made mistakes, which only you can really define what is a mistake for your poem, and you feel like you have some idea of why this is a mistake, that's the big point, knowing why, then it's pretty easy to make a change and try to do something that sounds like or means like less of a mistake. So yeah, you don't need to worry too much. It's good to notice quote unquote mistakes because your work gets better. It's one of the ways we learn, by changing our mistakes. So, but warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin. Yeah, I don't think it's very reconcilable, like skin and skin. So if we look at the ors, right? It gives us like this repetition, but it's not necessarily pointing toward the word or. It sort of gives us a bounce that points to eat or drink or write. It's like extra weight. But just pointing out that we use the word skin twice is not super helpful. The skin part does not work well. Okay, you agree. Um, there are lots of things that rhyme with skin. I don't know what though. Kin is kind of fun. You're talking about someone you care about, or the subject cares about. So, but regardless, but warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive. While the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. What are we talking about? Pacing? Structure. And, like, at least skin isn't at the end of the line. I think it would be, like, really painful. Second skin with derm. Derm burning? That's fun. Derm. It's an option. You could talk about a part of the hand as well, like palm or something like that. Palm doesn't like have that rhyme. Frigid finger. The warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid fingers, burning them alive. While the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. It's kind of good. Yeah. Alliteration keeps us moving. And then you have like finger, ing, burning, ing, alighting, igid. So there's a lot of G happening. You're kind of adding this alliterative tool. It's kind of sick. It's a good idea. Well, the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet you will never change. And then just in terms of like structure here, but warmth seeps through the skin. It's fine. I think like sometimes I'm partial to just breaking up an idea across a second line. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid whatever skin. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting. The frigid skin burning it alive. Like it's but maybe it works fine like this too. It's just I think this is an idea that like warrants enough time to have weight at the end of it. But warmth seeps through the skin, right? But it's like this negation, moving to another idea. Let's make sure it's clear, and then move on to something else. So maybe that's cool. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road for what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? I like the T's. It gives it a harshness. You could definitely add like more T's and D's. What? Like some of these words makes yourself by on this road. Like I almost want just like more of that harshness. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat. Like this is a long time of very not harsh syllables. Of a game you'll never beat. And you may as well lay down in defeat. And maybe it getting less harsh and more, right, defeated. is okay. But I think the momentum of really just like aggressively questioning this person, what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road for what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. Okay, maybe I like it as is. Sometimes performance and tone changes it a lot. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise, and I demand clarity. So in terms of like structure, we go sentence with a period, sentence with a period. And they are things we're really trying to like say to this person. But this is something I've kind of commented about before in poems, is sometimes giving weight to a line that kind of just explains what everything else is saying. Right, we talk about the crying and pain and the like basically being averse to the warmth and causing oneself pain. And it's like, then why do we need to say again, injuring yourself is no worthy task? For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. This is maybe a part that in some way reminds me of like the love poem, Just Another Love Poem, that you wrote, or whatever it was called. Where it was these sort of like big outward platitudes or just like ideas that aren't in themselves particularly poetic or artistic. They just say a thing. And maybe if they were structured differently. Injuring yourself is no worthy task for the sake of it all. I'm begging you. Just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise, I demand clarity. Not sure. Structure is still something I'm trying to figure out how it works. Why it works in some ways. So don't quote me on any of that. I'm going to run a little ad, and then we'll come back and talk about meaning itself, which we're probably starting to figure out already. And then maybe answer questions. Do self-care. Don't watch the ads. Hey, welcome back. Here's Dexterity by Mae7ari. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world whilst still having disparity, is your dexterity. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin, burning it alive, while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat, you may as well lay down in defeat. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise, and I demand clarity. Resting in a sea of darkness of the world is a metal line. I agree, Stylish Fail. I like this opening stanza is my favorite part of the poem, probably. Uh, yeah. So meaning-wise. So it just says, you know, in this big world of people and all of that, like I think it's just quite saying quite literally, value your dexterity. I agree with this. Uh, I love hands. Hands do everything. You can tell so much about someone from their hands. Hands are this. They eat, drink, write, grab, gesture, hold. They. God, it's great. Hands are based. And they're gorgeous. Yeah, I agree. Hands are cool. That's why the only place I would really care to get tattooed is like all over my hands, which is crazy, but or that I most want tattooed. Regardless, your hands are important. They basically do all of these things. But your hands are cold, just in general. So I like this, that cold hands, they're kind of stiff. You can't really move them very well. If you've had really cold hands and tried to like write or type or do anything, it can be a struggle. But warmth seeps through the skin. So we have this idea of, something good. Alighting the frigid skin, but it burns it alive. While the nerves die, you cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. So in some way this person is inflicting pain upon themselves, are not going to change through fire. There is this sort of speak of just like self-harm. So perhaps this is like burning fingers. People do this, I think. I mean, people burn themselves in lots of places. I did it on my arms, but I think fingers is pretty common. Just like hold the lighter there. Don't do it. And then it's sort of perverting this thing that is warm and maybe helpful, as we've established, to just cause more pain. So the hands are cold, inactive, not necessarily doing all of these beautiful things that do life. And as a replacement for maybe genuine warmth, which might be this, or implied as this, we are instead burning. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road for what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. And I mean, like, meaning-wise, I just read this as, like, speaking to the endlessness of this. That, like this, any kind of self-harm and hurting oneself, or even if it's not physical, this could be metaphorical for some other broader terms of hurting oneself, but I think it's talking actually about the hands. But it's this like addiction. It's this thing that doesn't end if you let it start. It's really bad. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you to just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity, while you remain unwise. And I demand clarity. I want you to stop. I want you to have some clarity and understand this. You remain doing this thing. I'm not certain I see much of a broader interpretation than this. I think a lot of the talk of like hands and dexterity makes it very specific, and then it's just someone physically hurting themselves, which is of course like powerful in its own right. Watching another person go down that spiral sucks. Going down that spiral sucks. And I also think this poem does do like a lot with sound. So you said, Mae7ari, that you were working on this in light of the really good sound poem. And I think you do demonstrate like a lot of cool sound things, probably in ways that like your other poems didn't. And in that regard, it's like, so you say like this poem doesn't cook as much, but we talk about meaning, sound, structure. And you went from a poem that, you know, the meaning was sort of like very weak in the first one. And then the second poem you showed us was like much, much stronger in meaning. Very strong meaning, lots of these like dense metaphors and stuff. And then you saw a cool poem about sound and you're like, let me try doing something with sound, probably, even subconsciously. And as we do this, just because our focus is here, we're going to lose some of the other stuff if we're putting extra focus here. It's just kind of what happens when like all of them are not mastered, which probably takes forever. So in that way, even though this one like didn't cook because it maybe doesn't have like the strongest, most overwhelmingly powerful meaning behind it. Oops. Where are we? Here? Doesn't have like the most overwhelming meaning, but it has improved so much in sound compared to the other stuff. So like in my mind it does cook. It just cooks in a way that the other ones didn't. And it doesn't cook in the way that you know how to cook, but you're learning new ways to cook, so you're cooking. And I think like we can already see some of the ways that we might improve the sound in this poem even more. And that's awesome, because there's always room to grow. You asked about meaning. I'd like you to question, is the intended audience perception of their own pain incorrect? Is the speaker's okay? Right. Hello. I'm back, I think. Hopefully it's not too like laggy. I mean, I see like a pretty bad bit rate. But I think like the Wi-Fi just died. I don't know. Mae7ari, you're first. Wow. First to the new stream. um the quality got real bad. I didn't leave. I was forced to leave. Um yeah, I wonder if like my mom and sister are home. Maybe it's just a lot on the Wi-Fi. Not sure. But yeah, as long as it's fine now. Um Looks like my bit rate's back in the green, so we're fine. What was I saying before things ended? We were talking about meaning and the narrator, and you were asking if you could explain the meaning, and I think yes, Mae7ari, if you would like to, you can. There's only about less than an hour left in this analysis, so I think that's fine. Oh, and the auto ads are starting in half an hour now. It's annoying. But yeah, this is actually an inner monologue toward myself. Ooh, about carpal tunnel. Oh, I see. So it's not a you. What was telling me it was an external you? Nothing, I guess. I guess probably having you and I is tricky. I mean, internal monologue is like you and I, so it's not necessarily like it has to be like that. Hmm. Okay, that's a super cool meaning. That's awesome. Uh, Warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin. Burning it alive while the nerves die and cry out in pain. Yet still you never change. What makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road for what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? Oh, interesting. So there's like, is that like literally like video game meaning? uh Carpal tunnel because of fighting games. Yep. Game is literally a game. Oh, wait, that's so cool. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you to stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity, while you remain unwise and I demand. Okay. Wait, that's super awesome. Okay. So, I don't think there's that much, like, pointing me toward internal monologue. And I mean, I think internal monologue or inner monologue is very hard to express. But you also like it's fine if you write it to read like two people and then it's like, oh, it's actually internal monologue. No, that makes sense. It's like fighting my yeah, no, it super makes sense. I guess Mae7ari. With that in mind, because like, okay, do you have any questions now that I know what it means? But I wrote it like two people, very irrationally. Oh, intentionally. I cannot read. It's so far away. Okay, if it's written like two people intentionally, then that's like good. It reads like two people. It's tricky when you write it to read like two people and you're trying to say that it's one person, right? And maybe you don't want it to be super clear to your audience that it's one person, in which case you've done great, and then you get to explain it, and they go like, "Whoa, that makes so much sense. That's so cool." Um, do you have questions? I guess. In terms of the original question you asked, my answer is now the subject, the speaker, uh the person telling them to stop injuring themselves is correct, absolutely, and Mae7ari, you should take care of yourself. That's my answer to the question. Self-care. Yeah, it's funny because it's true. Take care of yourself, really. Stretch your hands and use them less. And what fighting game do you play though? Or games? I don't have many questions when I'm put on the spot. That's okay. That's super fine. Uh, do you want this to express carpal tunnel more clearly? Or do you want it to. Because I basically read it as convincing someone to stop self harming, which is kind of what it is, right? Convincing yourself. Um, you play SSB. Which one? Melee? I guess that'd be like the carpal tunnel inducing one. Ultimate. Because it's a platform fighter or something, and it's technically not like a traditional fighting game like Street Fighter or Guilty Gear or whatever. I played some Guilty Gear Strive, Mae7ari. It's very funny because Melee, yeah, the Melee is the worst one. You don't even have to like Wave dash. Come on, your tendons are weak. I'm kidding. I also get it from like the most basic character. Do you literally play like Mario? Or like a sword character? Now we're just talking about Smash Bros. Uh, you implemented a lot of movement tech into your gameplay. Gotcha. But who do you play? Very autistic about my Super Smash Bros. Good. Although not good if it's driving you to have carpal tunnel, Mae7ari. Don't drive yourself to carpal tunnel. Dark Pit. That's crazy. I remember Dark Pit was like absolutely awful when I played. You love him. He's such like a emo boy. He's a sad boy. Okay, okay. Move away from fighting games. Do you want this poem? You should like not induce carpal tunnel. Yeah. Do you want this poem to more clearly like give hint toward carpal tunnel or fighting games or any of that? Or you don't mind the self-harm interpretation? Yeah, because you're hurting yourself. It is a sort of self-harm. Uh, and that's like normal. And like people, lots of people do various forms of self-harm, be it mental or physical or whatever, occupational, financial. People are self-harming like all the time. Getting yourself carpal tunnel and self-harm is both self-destructive. Yeah, definitely. That's a cool interpretation. I don't want to elaborate on the situation about me, but I'm fine with it as is with some edits and structures. Okay, so in terms of meaning, you like the lack of sort of clear message, keeping it hidden under some layers. But you're just gonna work on changing the sound a bit. Do you feel like you have a good grasp on that, or are there any parts that you would want an extra few minutes of my time to talk about? Because I'm happy to talk more about sound. Just know that I'm learning sound myself as well right now, and I'm not entirely proficient. But I've been looking at sound a lot. It's all I've been thinking about for like a week. Which is like a long time in my life. Really? What you mentioned? Besides what you mentioned, not really. Feel pretty happy with it now. Okay, awesome. That's cool. You should be. I agree. I'll read it again then. Uh, I feel like that was kind of a short analysis, but I guess that's okay. We can have those. um, that's cool. No, I think that meaning's really interesting. And please take care of yourself, Mae7ari. Please. Dexterity by Mae7ari. The most important asset of you, of any of the 8 billion individuals resting in the sea of darkness of the world whilst still having disparity, is your dexterity. The hands are the most beautiful, shimmering jewel. You cannot eat or drink or write, grab, gesture, or hold without your hands, which are now cold. But warmth seeps through the skin, alighting the frigid skin The skin thing is like killing me the more I read it. Skin burning it alive while the nerves die and cry out in pain, yet still you will never change. But what makes it so difficult to stop? You're mutilating yourself by continuing on this road. For what? To be the greatest of a game you'll never beat? You may as well lay down in defeat. Injuring yourself is no worthy task. For the sake of it all, I'm begging you, just stop. The most important asset of you is your dexterity. While you remain unwise and I demand clarity. Dexterity by Mae7ari. Thank you so much for submitting. Excellent. And I think you now have some ways that you might improve, and that's always good because improving is usually an exciting and fun and awesome thing.
Thank you for watching. I encourage you to check out the rest of the series, follow if you enjoyed, and stop by Twitch if you want to share your own work. See you there.